Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're a first timer, welcome. And I'm glad you're here. If you're coming back, thank you for coming back. If you can hit that subscribe and like button, that'll help me get these messages out to other people who may need it. All right, guys, so today I'm gonna go ahead and go over my testimony again. Someone was nice enough to tell me that my audio was out in the first one, so thank you for that. And let's get to it. I'm gonna try to make this video not as long, but just because of the context and all of the history that happened, let's just see where it goes. Okay, so what I'm gonna go over today is my testimony. I am now a Christian, but I was into occultism. I've been possessed by a demon. I was into tarot cards, angel cards. I was into, I could do psychic readings. I could speak to the dead. I would go to ayahuasca ceremonies, bufo ceremonies, peyote ceremonies, mushroom ceremonies. I used to serve in these ceremonies with a group of people that held these ceremonies. So I would do service there, as well as closer to the end of my time serving, since I would go so much and those people grow to be kind of like a family to you because you guys are all there meeting for the same purpose. It's like a fellowship. I started getting initiated as shaman, and I almost moved to Colombia with the Taitas, and I was gonna like spend the rest of my life there and serve for this purpose. So I'm gonna get into all of that, and let's get to it. So, okay, let's rewind back to the beginning where all of this started, right? So just a little bit about me. I'm 38 years old. My name is Melody, and I'm a registered nurse now. So back in 2019, I had a son, and I was in a relationship where it was really narcissistic. Let's rewind a little bit more. Let me give you a foundation of my spirituality. That way you guys have like a little foundation of why I was able to have all of these doors open for me and why all of this happened the way that it happened. So growing up, I was born and raised a Catholic. Being a little kid, I had an older brother. We would go to church. We always hated going to church. I never really liked going to church. We had to do our sacraments, which was our first Holy Communion, a baptism, and what was the other one? It was a confirmation. So I think I only got up to doing my first Holy Communion and the baptism. We would go to Sunday church, never opened up a Bible in my life. So I didn't have any biblical scriptures for life. I didn't know what the commandments were. In these sacraments, they do teach you, but because I was so not interested, I wouldn't really pay attention. And I think they were teaching me in Spanish, which is my first language. But I speak more English because I live in the US. So maybe I wasn't really putting things together, because when I would pray, I knew how to do like the whole church service and the mass in Spanish, and I never knew how to do it in English. So doing it in Spanish, even though I can speak Spanish, I understand English and I'm able to communicate a lot better in English. So that could be why I wasn't really understanding the spirituality in the prayers or the scripture, because it was in Spanish, not in English, and I speak and understand English more. Just off topic, my son's here and he's playing around. He's running around the house, so if you guys hear him yelling, I do apologize. He's 6 years old, so just bear with me a little bit. That's him. So I do apologize for that if that's an interference. So back to it. Born Catholic, raised Catholic, was never really into the church. I never went to a Bible study. Like I said, I only did my commandments. I learned how to pray the prayers. And that was pretty much it. Later on in life, my mom, at about 14 years old, she went to prison, stopped going to church. And then I was kind of just with my dad. And at this point, my father was too emotionally wrecked and immature to be able to help process the abandonment that I felt when my mom went to prison. So it was almost like I had a present parent that was there physically, but he wasn't there mentally for me. So I used to just repress a lot of the stuff that I would feel. I became a repressor for a long time, so I walked around with a lot of baggage and a lot of trauma, always looking for love in all the wrong places. Fast forwarding a little bit to how I got into spirituality. So at this time when my mom's gone, I didn't see her again. She left at 14 and came back when I was about 21. 21 was about, I want to say somewhere around 2010, somewhere around there. Man, I forgot what I was saying. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. Going to 2019. I just had my first son. I only have one son. And I was in a kind of narcissistic relationship. The relationship had already been going for about 4 years. And I was already like in my mind begging and pleading and trying to convince myself to leave this relationship because I was just feeling, it was just probably the darkest time in my life. At this point, I wasn't a nurse yet. I didn't know what I was going to be doing career-wise. I had just had my son, and just being a first-time mom with the postpartum depression and all the feelings and emotions and physical changes that you go through being a first-time mom. I was kind of like at home, and then I was thinking about what my career was going to be. So at the same time, I'm trying to get out of this relationship, but I don't know how to get out of the relationship because my parents played the narcissistic and the codependent. So that's the environment that I was used to. So that felt really familiar to me. And as I'm trying to plot getting out, like I mentioned earlier, I do have an older brother. My older brother started, he's always chased after spirituality. And he's always tried to look for the truth. And at this point in time, I remember he had told me he was doing a program with two mentors, a male and a female. They're married. And these people, these people are in South Africa. So he did like a 6-week program where you get to know yourself, and you're trying to heal your inner self, right? So he became vegan, and he really did like a 360. My brother, growing up, was a very aggressive person. I don't blame him because of the environment that we grew up in. Very aggressive, very arrogant, just very prideful. And so when he did this program, I saw a lot of changes in him. Before he did the program, it was like whenever he would come around, I would always feel like, man, like his energy would kind of like, yeah, baby, bring it over. His energy would repel me. Here. Yeah. No, a little bit later. Take that first, okay? Thank you. When I would feel his energy or his vibes around me, it's almost like I would feel like a repel because it was just so strong that I was just like, oh, I don't want you near me. So he started doing this program. He became vegan. I felt his vibe completely 360 shift. He was like a lot nicer. The changes were so big that I was just like, I was in shock. I was like, wow. I need something like that in my life because of what I was going through. Um, like I said, it was a really dark time in my life, and I needed to escape that. So I was kind of looking for just anything to hold on to, anything that I could do to kind of rip me out of this situation, you know? So he was actually in town because he lives in Oklahoma. He was in town visiting, and I told him, I was like, you know what, I see your changes. I'm thinking of maybe doing the program that you did and just to see what happens, to see what I can get out of it. Right now, I'm going through a really dark time in my life. And he was like, yeah, no worries. I can hook you up with these people, and then we can get you taken care of. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll let you know if I decide here soon within the next couple of days before you leave. So he kept pressing me for it. Like, dude, are you going to take the jump? Are you going to take the jump? And I was unsure up until like the day before, maybe 2 days before he left. I had a dream, and I had a dream that the universe called me, and I had a dream that I was like, the universe called me, and the universe said, if you don't leave this dude and do something quick, you're never gonna become a nurse. You're never gonna do anything with your life. This relationship is gonna consume you. So right away, I was just like, man, okay, I need to get the hell out of here. I need to get out of here. I need to do something quick. So I was already thinking of doing that thing with my brother, so I jumped on board. It was a pretty expensive program for 6 weeks. It was like $2,000, but I didn't care. I needed a fix. I needed help. So I was just like, okay, let's do it. Called my brother up, told him, hey, I'm in. I wire transferred the money, and boom, we started. So I'm a December 31st baby, and I remember, I believe the first meeting we had was like either on my birthday or the day before my birthday. And we started the program. They had me doing salt baths, meditating daily to kind of empty out my mind. We started out with a lot of counseling sessions, kind of just getting off what's on my chest, meditation sessions with them. They would do a tarot reading, and it was kind of like spiritual, but it didn't seem occult. But because I didn't know what the definition to occult was, it was okay to me because I was noticing differences in me. I was a lot calmer. I was starting to kind of change. So, okay, I started spending more time on me. I actually got out of the relationship, and I started dealing with my issues in a more, I guess, a healthier way. So I started to see the changes, and I wanted to start practicing more of the things that I saw them practicing, right? And preaching. So going back a little bit, something that I forgot to mention, when I was like, I want to say when I was like, I don't know, maybe like 10 to 12 years old. I believe it was in like 99 when the internet came out and you finally had like the dial-up modem. That was in 99. I remember when the internet came out, I would look up spells online, and I remember in my backyard, I would do protection jars with like nails and blades, and I would bury them in my backyard. And I remember the first spell that I ever tried to do was trying to change my eye color. I remember I would imagine pentagrams in my backyard. And I mean, at 11, 12, I didn't really know what that was or what that meant. So to me, it was not harmful, but because I didn't have a foundation of God in the Bible and scripture, I didn't know what I was opening myself up to spiritually in the invisible realm. So I remember when I was a little kid, I don't have, like, I'm trying to remember the memory now and see it. And I remember my mom had like oils and she would go somewhere and I never knew where she was going. But in my heart, I knew it had something to do with witchcraft. So because my mom and my family, it was very strong in my mom's family, in her bloodline, it was okay because I was part of my environment. Now, the environment that my dad came from was Puerto Rican. So his family was really big into Santeria. And I'm going to get into that a little bit further so you guys can see how everything kind of comes together. So I'm in this program, 6-week program. I'm feeling healed. I'm feeling spiritual. They opened me up to New Age, what we call New Age nowadays, where New Age is all about like crystals, burning sage, doing angel cards, playing with pendulums to get answers, yes or no answers, meditation to kind of empty out your mind, breathing techniques. It's all about forgiving others, and it's about self-care, putting yourself first. So I was getting really big into that, and I remember my brother telling me that he went to an ayahuasca ceremony, and I was like, you know what? Like weeks had passed by to where I finished the 6-week program, right? And that was over in like February. So now we're like in April-ish now, right? And I continued doing everything that I was doing with them, which was like the salt baths, burning sage. I started buying angel tarot decks. I had gotten a pendulum. I had gotten crystals, and I would put intentions in there. I would use crystals for protection. I would use crystals to repel bad vibes. What else was I doing at that time? And I was just looking and digging more into spirituality. I would do spells on myself. I would never do spells on other people. I would do spells on myself so that I can elevate my mind higher and higher and higher and higher. And so that I could kind of not hypnotize, but kind of program myself into taking the next steps of discipline that I needed to take. So, like I said, I was doing meditations every day, and I would do them for 30 minutes, like without fail. It was like a religious thing almost. And I started being able to talk to spirits in my meditation. How did I notice? One day I was in my meditation and I got kind of like a download, like a message. But it wasn't like in somebody else's voice, like a second or third person voice. It was in my voice, and it was coming through my thoughts, right? And that was very clear to me that it was in my own voice and it was in my thoughts, but I knew that it wasn't me. And the person who I thought to be was sending me these messages, or the person that I thought that I was evoking or channeling was my grandpa, which is on my father's side, which was the one that was into Santeria. The way that I came about finding out that I was getting these messages is because one day, by the way, that grandpa, my dad's father, he died before I was born, so I never got to meet him, right? And the way that I found out was one day, the message was something like, man, it was so long ago that the message was something like, I know it was about my dad, and I know it was my grandpa had cancer, and that's how he died. And the message was something like, I believe my grandpa was trying to tell my dad, like, I love you and you were my favorite, but because of the cancer, because of the sickness that I had before I died, that kind of changed things between him and my dad a lot. And he wasn't able to give him the love and the care that he deserved because of the sickness that was going on. So that was the first message that I had ever received. Later on, I come to find out that all these messages and all the things that I thought I was channeling, like ancestors and family, it's all demons. It's all demons at the end of the day. So, okay, the way that I found out was one day I was in the kitchen minding my own business, and I was there with my dad. And my dad's, I don't know how the conversation came up, but we started talking about my grandpa. And then I literally spilled out that message that I thought I had received from my grandpa in this meditation. And my dad looks at me, and I was like, he looks at me and I like weird, and I was just like, what? And he was like, well, how did you know that? Your grandpa died before you were born. You never even got to meet him. How would you know something like that? And then I was just like, that's when I started correlating that the messages and things that I was getting in my meditations wasn't coming from me. So once I started doing that, I started trying to play with it more. I started trying to evoke it more. I started trying to see what I can get from this, right? And I started taking a dry erase board into my, because where I would meditate was I would take a salt bath in a bath, and then I would put like oils in there, salt, herbs in there, and then I would do my meditation. And I started taking a dry erase board in there, and I started writing down all the thoughts and stuff, all the pop-ups that would come up. And I started noticing trends. I started noticing messages. I started noticing things they wanted me to do, and advice for other things in my life to kind of move things around. And then I started doing these things because the advice seemed legit at that time, you know? I didn't know any better. I didn't have a foundation of God or anything that could potentially tell me different. So to me, these things were positive. And so I started writing them down. I started tracking them. And then it started getting more blunt to where, come here, baby, I'll open it for you. I'll open it for you. It started getting more blunt to where I couldn't see the spirit, but I could feel spirits around me. So I knew, baby, okay, throw it in the trash, please. Thank you. I couldn't see the spirits physically, but I knew there were spirits around me, and there were a lot of them. Sometimes I would get the feeling of like, I knew that it was this person, and it was usually like dead people in my family. And then it started just getting more blatant and blatant and blatant. The messages started getting clearer. The voices started getting clearer. And I would take advice from these messages because I thought it was like ancestral, you know? So in the New Age, you always pay homage to your ancestors, right? And so I thought my ancestors were guiding me. I thought I had spirit guides, and my spirit guides were guiding me at this point. And I thought everything was going really positive. And I started school, and then I started seeing like a bunch of really positive, or what I thought at that time was positive changes in my life. So of course I was accepting the advice. Baby, don't yell, please, okay? So of course I was accepting the advice because I thought these changes were making positive changes in my life. So of course I'm gonna take the advice. I see results, and anyone who sees positive results is gonna take the advice that they're given. So then it started getting to a point where I started becoming kind of like psychic, and I started giving others the advice. And then from there it started progressing. First it was meditations, then it was psychic, then it was like tarot readings, then it was pendulum readings, and then it just kept going on. I wanted more, I wanted more, I wanted more, I wanted more. Till then, now we're gonna go back to when my brother said thank you baby, thank you for putting it away, I appreciate you. My brother had told me that he had gone to an ayahuasca ceremony. And the thing is with him is he kind of like freaked himself out of the trip. So he went to Mexico, which I'm in El Paso, Texas, and we have a border. You cross that border, you don't jump it. You cross the border and you're in Mexico. So I'm literally miles away from this access. So when he told me, I was like really intrigued, and he was like, yeah, it's a crazy spiritual trip. It's going to show you your lives and your past lives and all of this stuff. It's going to show you how we were created and all this stuff. And I was just like, I need to get my hands on this. I need more information. I need more knowledge, right? So, and because I was growing so rapidly and being able to do all of these things, I was like, wow, this really connect me to the spirit realm, which I was already enticed in because I already thought that I was talking to the dead and that I had psychic powers and that I could do tarot readings. So I was like, I already had that ego where it was like building up. I was building up, building up, building up. And I was like, wow, maybe this will actually let me see and look into the spirit realm. So I started looking around on the internet, and lo and behold, I found an ayahuasca ceremony. It was in Mexico, exact same place where my brother did it with the exact same people. So I signed up for it. And I was a little nervous. I was scared going into it. Compared to my brother, I think he only saw like 10 seconds of vision, and then he freaked himself out that he just kind of he blocked himself out of the trip, and then he came back and he didn't see anything again, and he never went back, which my brother's kind of like a scaredy cat, so it would make sense to me that he would do something like that. But I'm a little bit more intense and extreme. That's like my personality, where I'm just like, I'm gonna jump in. And I went to the first ayahuasca ceremony, and it was intense. It was intense. The way that ayahuasca works is, and this should have been the key thing. When I started getting into the spirituality and I started getting into all of this occultism that I thought was spirituality, I was looking for truth. I was looking for the God that I never knew. I'm gonna go back a little bit and give more context into that. I was looking for a God because Catholicism never really struck me as being interesting. I tried Jehovah's Witness after that, and that felt too culty for me. No disrespect to anybody else. I tried Buddhism, and I tried the New Age. The New Age was the closest thing that I felt where I was at home. I felt at home. So I stuck to the New Age. And now going back to the ayahuasca, this just inflated that even more because I didn't have any biblical foundation, any foundation of God or anything to compare that to. So I was opening a bunch of spiritual doors, but that doesn't necessarily mean those spiritual doors that were being opened were healthy ones or that they were of light. And later on, I'll get into that. So I go to the first ayahuasca, and as soon as you go to ayahuasca, there's a shaman, and they kind of give you like a little meeting before you start. It's kind of like a little rundown in what to expect, and so you go through that. But before you do that, it's kind of like you're out in a field, preferably like a desert or somewhere away. The ceremonies usually start at about midnight, which if you're thinking of doing ayahuasca, I completely do not condone it. I do not condone it for it. Like I said, later into the years after serving and being with these people and actually getting to know what I was really doing, all of it was demonic. None of it is of light, and I'll get into that at the end. I don't recommend you doing ayahuasca. It's just going to put you into a rabbit hole that you don't want to go into. But anyways, went to ayahuasca. You're usually out in a field for usually type of any ceremony, whether it be ayahuasca, whether it be bufo, whether it be mushrooms, whether it be peyote. You're usually out in the desert. The ceremony usually doesn't start till about midnight. That should be a key thing for you. You're doing it in the night, and you're doing it at midnight. And what are some telltale signs that anybody knows, not just people who read the Bible or that know truth? When you're out in the dark comes out and plays. What is something that's super common knowledge? The witching hours between what hours? Like what, 3 and 4? So it's known that darkness or nighttime is when dark entities come out. That's just a given. Just so if you're thinking of doing ayahuasca, start reflecting on that as one. So you're out in the desert, you take sleeping bags, you take a gallon of water, you take toilet paper, you take a plastic bag so you can throw up in, and you do your briefing, right? They tell you kind of what's going to happen. There's a line for the men, there's a line for the females, and then there's a line for people that have their period. People with a period cannot get close to the altar. Keyword, altar. All of these are spiritual things that you need to be aware of before you get yourself into a mess. So there is an altar, okay? After that, okay, let's go back to the period thing. The females on their period cannot get near the altar. Reflect on why. Why? There's blood. You cannot get near the altar. Okay? So you have your little briefing. The shaman's there. He's the intermediate between the spirits and the physical realm. So he's the one that brings in and invites the spirits, because the shaman's the one that communicates to the spirits. And the way that he communicates to the spirits is through frequencies. They play music, and certain spirits like certain music. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that there's certain vibrations or frequencies for like healing, for autism, for love, for this, for that. It's the same thing with demons. Demons have a frequency too. Just like there's a God frequency, there's also a lowered frequency, which is the demonic frequency. So they play their songs, and they use their frequencies. It's very, very, very specific frequencies, and that's what draws in the spirits that are going to play with you during that ceremony. So before the ceremony starts, they do rapé. What is rapé? It's like pulverized tobacco, like a snuff, and it's mixed with other herbs that you would find in the jungle. And how do they apply it? It's a wooden straw looking like thing. The straw end goes right here into your nose, and it gets shot up into your brain. And the other person on the other side kind of blows into it, and so they blow that up your nose. And then the rapé is meant to calm you down to where you're literally so calm, so mellow. You're literally at like a meditate. If you've ever meditated, you're just super zen. You're just super calm. You're like, It's like if you've been meditating for hours. There's nothing on your mind. You're completely empty. You're just calm. It's like just a calmness. And so they give you that to prepare you. And it's like some of them act as a calmer, and some of them act...
red pretzels.
Okay, bring me the red pretzels, baby, so I can give them to you, please. Give me the bag. Bring me the bag. Bring me the pretzels, please. Can you get it? No? I'll be right back.
A farmer gets a corn.
Okay, so you do the rapé. Some of them act as a calming rapé, and some of them act as like a pre-purger, where as soon as they blow that into your nose, you're literally on your knees barfing. Most of them are the calm ones. I've only had one that was the pre-purger. So ceremony starts, the male are first, then the females go up, and then it's the people with the period. Okay, there you go, puppies. You get your little cup. Sometimes it could be very liquidy. It's a very strong taste. It doesn't taste very good. Sometimes it can be thick and viscousy. It just depends on the shaman and what their mixture is, right? Keep in mind, when you do the briefing at the beginning of ayahuasca, the shaman always lets you know you're consuming the spirit of ayahuasca. Key word, guys. Think about these things and reflect on these things, guys. All of this is spiritual, and the invisible realm is very, 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 very real. Is very real. So you're consuming the spirit of ayahuasca. You're not consuming the spirit of God. You're consuming the spirit of ayahuasca. Okay? So you consume it. Some people start throwing up automatically. They tell you to hold it in for about 30 minutes and then you'll get the purge, which is how it happened to me. I held it in for about 45 minutes and then I threw up a couple times, and then from there I started seeing visuals, right? The first ayahuasca ceremony that I went to, it really changed me. I became vegan. I started thinking that I was more spiritual. I started yearning for more. I wanted more information, more knowledge. I wanted more spirituality. And that happened. And then after the ceremony, like I said, I went vegan. I felt like my purpose in life was to be a healer. So I wanted more. I wanted to serve at these ceremonies. That was like my ultimate goal. I was like, I saw it, the music was beautiful. Like everything to me at that time was like, it was the best thing that I could experience, right? And so I continued going. I continued trying to grow in my own spirituality. I started researching more things. I started going to more ceremonies. I started actually talking to the people that host the ceremonies, and I started getting close to them. I was like, well, can I help with the music? Can I do this? Can I do that? And then little by little they started letting me in because I kept going habitually. So I started getting to know these people, and in every ceremony I felt more spiritual, I guess you can say, you know. And at the same time, I'm going through school, going through life, going through this, going through that, and I just kept wanting more and more and more. I made friends with a lot of the people that would host it, because it's like a group of people. It's like a pretty big group of people. I started making friends with them. Some of them actually lived here in El Paso, and then some of them lived in Mexico, but that didn't mean we couldn't exchange numbers and keep in contact. We had these massive group chats, and it was just, I was in love with it. And so I started trying other things. I started doing peyote, and I would serve with them and their group, because the ayahuasca people have their group, the peyote people have their group, and then the bufo people have their group. Even though they all know each other, they're all separated in like ceremonies. So I started doing more stuff, and I started doing more stuff. People started getting to know me there. I started serving. I started getting initiated little by little. I would receive necklaces. These necklaces had like, when you get to know the shamans, because every single time we would have a ceremony, it would be a different shaman. So that shaman would play different music. He had different ways, you know, even though they were sent from the same Indian tribe in Colombia, which are the Taitas. Every shaman has their own kind of remix of how they do their own stuff. So I'm serving, I'm doing all this stuff. I started getting initiated, started getting necklaces. With these necklaces, I think the first thing that I got was like a little rattle. And I don't have it anymore because I got rid of all of that stuff. It's like a little rattle, and it has a specific frequency. And in the ceremonies, we would play music. So that's how I started, was with my little rattle. And I'd always go, and I always had my little rattle. And later on, once I got really deep into that, that became a powerful little rattle. So the first one was my little rattle. I started getting initiated, and I started getting necklaces. And these necklaces they were made out of like, I don't know what kind of tree in Colombia, but everything is made through like nature, through trees, through everything is like naturally made from the earth. So the necklaces would make specific noises. And with my little rattle, I would play the rattle and the necklaces during the ceremonies, and that's how we would all play music. And so I started going more and more, getting to know people. I started getting addicted to not so much the drug, but it was once you're in the trip, you're in the spirit realm. The spirit realm is open. It's open. And I remember, not after the first ceremony, but after the third ceremony that I did, ayahuasca, I remember thinking, man, this is sorcery. I didn't even know what the word meant, but I was just like, dang, dude, this is like serious sorcery. I was like, this almost felt like a satanic ceremony, but I couldn't really understand or put together or separate anything because I didn't have anything to compare it to. So as I'm getting addicted to the fellowship, I'm getting addicted to being in the spirit realm, and I'll explain what that is. And really just being around these people that have the same purpose, you know? So I thought that I was doing God's work, because as I would go to these ceremonies, we would play the music, and I remember I started getting like powers. It's almost like my psychic powers, but different powers. You start kind of going up in that spiritual realm, but it's a demonic realm. You get little powers, but you don't really know what those powers are doing because it's never really shown to you clearly. When you leave ayahuasca, you leave with a bunch of information. It's almost like this is your brain, right? It's almost like ayahuasca just slaps you with a bunch of information that you're able to process some of it, but it's so much information that you're only able to process a little bit of it. And then the fact that you weren't able to process the rest of it keeps you wanting to go for more. So I did ayahuasca a few times, and then I started getting into mushrooms, and I really liked mushrooms because with mushrooms, okay, so let me go back a little bit and explain the ayahuasca thing. So when you take ayahuasca, you hold it in for about 30 minutes and you start purging. Then you kind of start seeing the dirtiness, the impureness, the demonic in everybody. Once that goes away, it's like 3 cycles of transition that ayahuasca puts you through. First is the purging and seeing everyone as like, man, I'm like a horrible person. Then you go into kind of being at peace, and then you go into the transition of feeling one with everyone and everything, the floor, everything is one. And then that's where you feel the connection to everything, that you're like, man, I wish I could feel like that all the time. I wish I could feel all this love for everything and everyone all the time. So you go through those different transitions, and that's basically kind of what ayahuasca is. Everybody sees it in different forms, but that's basically the feelings that you feel in ayahuasca. And when the shaman plays his music, he's literally shifting those cycles. So he's forcing everybody to feel kind of the same thing at the same time. So when I started getting into mushrooms, that's when it really started getting crazy. This is when I started becoming possessed by a spirit. And things started to get a little bit crazier, more intense, and things just started to get to what I thought was really spiritual, but in reality it was really demonic. And then we'll get into why once we give you the context of all of that. So by this time I had already been serving, I had already known the people, I had already kind of gotten in with that group. And the ayahuasca people also did ceremonies in El Paso, but it wasn't ayahuasca because it's not as easy to bring ayahuasca into the United States as it is to get it to Mexico. So they held mushroom ceremonies in El Paso. So of course I'm gonna be down. They told me, dude, we've seen archangels, we've pulled the moon down, and I'm just like, people are telling you this, and you're a new ager, and you're like, wow, this is crazy. I need to see it for myself. So I already knew the group. Went to a mushroom ceremony, and it was my first time going to a mushroom ceremony. I had done mushrooms before, but it was just like a recreational. This time I was going in there differently with a different spiritual perspective. So did mushrooms. There was this guy there, and his name was Aaron. And I had known this guy already because, like I said, I had gotten to know people there. So I had created friendships. Although with this guy, I had been in ceremony with him another 2 previous times, and a lot of people just talked really bad about him, and I didn't really pay much attention or join into that because I didn't really know the guy. But at that time is kind of when I got to know him a little bit. So we are there, and we were at my spiritual godmother's house, and this lady has altars of all kinds at her house. She still is a santera, and so she had altars of siete rayos. She had Chango altars, demonic altars. I can't even tell you all of the altars that she had at her house. So this house alone, because of all the altars that are there, has a lot of spirituality there. There's going to be a lot of spirits hanging out there. If you know anything about Santeria does a lot of animal sacrifice. I had gotten initiated into Santeria, and now I am no longer a part of that. I was only in it for maybe about 6 months before I found Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. But there's a lot of blood sacrifice with Santeria. So there was a lot of blood shed on these altars there. And at this time, I didn't really know her that well because I hadn't gotten initiated into Santeria. So this is one of the first times I kind of went to her house. And there was others, like I said, that I had known from the other ceremonies, from the ayahuasca ceremonies. So they were there. So I knew some people there. And like I said, this guy Aaron was there, which is going to be a big part of the picture a little bit later on. So Aaron was there. Didn't really know him too good. I just knew he was there because, like I said, I had been ceremony with him 2 previous times at different ceremonies, peyote ceremony and an ayahuasca ceremony. So we did the mushrooms. It was about, I don't know, I want to say close to almost 1 o'clock in the morning when we started, because the person that was hosting the ceremony didn't get there till about midnight. So I take the first dose. I didn't feel anything. I was just kind of seeing a lot of dark things. And so I had 2 friends there that I went to school with, and they were like, dude, are you feeling anything? Or like, what are you going through? And I was just like, no, I was just seeing kind of like a lot of dark stuff. I don't know. And they were like, go take another cup. We just did. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, well, you know what? Since I'm not getting anything too intense, and I'm not feeling anything too crazy, I'm just gonna start walking around, because I saw there was some people in their sleeping bags, because the way these ceremonies work is you're outside, usually in a big area, and you, like I said earlier, you take a sleeping bag, you take a gallon of water, and then you can take a bag just in case you throw up. But usually with shrooms you don't throw up. That's an ayahuasca thing. So you're usually out in the open. Some people, there's usually fireplaces, and some people hang out at the fire. Some people will play music, and some people will commune or like fellowship, and then some people will be doing their own thing. Some people will be in their sleeping bags. So I took the advice, and I took another hit of the mushrooms. I took another little cup of it, because what they do is they mix it in cacao, and they mix it in cacao. So I took the second cup, and I remember that day being like, it was really, 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 really windy. So I took that second cup, but I was inside. I decided to stay with my friends a little bit to see if I could maybe talk to them, since I wasn't really feeling anything. And there was just a bunch of people inside in the kitchen, and I was just kind of talking to them. And then I was like, okay, it was really windy outside, so I decided to come inside. And I waited about 30 minutes, and then I remember being outside, and then I was in my sleeping bag, and I felt the need to I felt the wind stop. And then I felt the need to go inside. I was like, something was just telling me, you need to go inside. So I was like, okay. And keep in mind, she had altars inside and outside, in sheds and in sheds or storage type of things. She would hide them in there. And so something told me to go inside. And when I went inside, I felt like there was something moving my body. And I felt like I was watching it from it felt like I was outside of my body, hovering over my body, watching myself. And at first, like I said, in every ceremony, there's music. Those frequencies and vibrations bring specific spirits in. And so I remember my body was moving really weird. It almost felt like I just wanted to dance, and my body just wanted to dance. And my friends were looking at me like, dude, you're moving really weird. Like, are you okay? So I didn't know what to think about it. And then I was just I felt uncomfortable with the comment that they had told me. So they were in like this kitchen, and over here there was like a room, and it was like an altar room, and something drove me to go in there. I was like, man, I wonder what's going on in there. I saw them doing like some spiritual stuff, and I was just kind of like, I want to know what's going on. So I went in there, and I remember that's where it really hit me. I was literally hovering over myself, watching me do the stuff that I'm about to explain. So at that point, I don't know what type of rituals they were doing. I remember somebody telling me that my godparents were trying to marry some people in the spirit realm, but that I stopped the wedding. So what happened is, all of a sudden I start talking in tongues. I start literally doing rituals, and I was like, what the heck is going on? I was like, how can I have the knowledge of this? I'm outside looking at myself performing this. Like, I never lost memory of anything. I was talking in tongues. I was doing a bunch of stuff in that room with them spiritually. And it wasn't me. I was being possessed at that time. That was the first time the demon came down to possess me. And because I was doing ritualistic things, to me it was like, wow, I have secret knowledge. And this is crazy. I'm talking in tongues. This is insane. So towards the end of the ceremony, I don't know what happened, but I'm still in my own body watching myself. They start exercising me. And what I mean by exercising is they start doing an exorcism on me. I remember she pulled out a crucifix, she had a coconut, and she had some white powder that I forgot what the name of it was, and they started exorcising me, saying that there was like a demonic spirit in me, and this, and this. And then I remember that guy Aaron came into the room, and they told him to get out because they were like, dude, you are unexperienced in the spirit realm. You need to get out because the spirit can jump from host to host, which is person to person. And he was like, no, I don't feel like I wasn't doing anything that was harming anyone. I remember I was just speaking in tongues and acting out rituals. I remember when they told Aaron to leave the room, he said, no, I don't feel like I'm in danger. I feel like that spirit wants to talk to me. And then, so literally, I remember turning around and looking at him, and I literally ran up to him, and I was just like, I started getting crazy, and I started speaking to him in tongues. And then I remember going to him like that, and then they took him out of the room. They continued the exorcism or whatever. By this time, the sun's already kind of coming up, and everything's starting to calm down, because once 6 a.m. hits for some reason, like whether you're an ayahuasca, peyote, whatever it is that you're doing, everything starts to calm down at this time, and you start kind of coming back to reality. So at that point, I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't feel like whatever happened to me was negative. I didn't feel like the entity was a bad one, because it wasn't trying to harm anyone, and it definitely didn't try to harm me. So, but because I was speaking in tongues and acting out ritualistically, a lot of the people, not a lot of people, but a few people came up to me and were like, dude, are you okay? Like, that was pretty crazy. And they were telling me, like, that spirit wasn't okay. And in my mind, I was like, well, dude, it wasn't trying to hurt anybody. And it wasn't violent or anything. So I really wasn't understanding why they were saying it was bad. But I remember being a little bit scared, because I had never experienced anything like that in my life. So the next day, my godmother had a botanica. A botanica is a spiritual shop where you can get candles, incense, spiritual things like calderons, oils, you name it, you can get it at a botanica. And I went to her botanica and I was like, hey, you know what, I'm scared, I need a cleaning. What can we do to get this spirit out of me? So she did an egg cleaning, and then after that she told me, hey, come to my house at this time. We're gonna pull that spirit out of you. And I was like, okay. So she took me into one of those sheds that I was talking to you guys about, one of the altar rooms that she had. It was in her backyard. I didn't know she had that altar up until she opened it up. It was a shed. It was an altar for Siete Rayos. And I remember she put a bunch of writing on the floor, and she put sulfur on the floor in symbols. And she told me to come in white and to come in a dress. And I remember she started chanting some things out. Her husband was there, which was my godfather. They were chanting things out in a language that I couldn't understand. They did the sulfur symbols on the floor. They told me to stand in the middle of the circle. They lit the sulfur on fire. It burned. And then she said after that, the spirit should be out of me. So I was entrusting that it was gone, you know, because the next day we had to go to 2 days later or something like that. Yeah, I think the next day we had to go. We were going to go to an ayahuasca ceremony. So I didn't want that spirit to manifest in the ayahuasca ceremony and, I don't know, do something crazy. So I was scared. I was like, hey, we need to get this out. So she said it was out. I trusted her. And then after that, she was like, hey, do you want to sit here and have some coffee and we can chat or whatever? And then, so we did. She put some she put some music on, and then she was dyeing her hair, and we were having some coffee, and we were just talking, because at this point I was already set up to be initiated into Santeria, like months to come from here. So I was just trying to get all of these initiations because I thought all those initiations were going to give me like more power in the spirit realm. That's what I thought. So we're talking, and she was like, hey, do you want to hit a rapé? And I was like, okay, yeah, let me take a hit of rapé. So she gives me a huge hit of rapé. She took a hit too, and it's what I'm telling you, the snuff that goes up your nose. I threw up, and I was like feeling like so lightheaded, and I was just not feeling good. And then it started to calm down. And then I started to feel that spirit again. And then I started to feel that spirit come up again. And we were listening to music. So me and her were like dancing, and we were just being new age hippies. And we weren't high or anything. We just took a hit of rapé. And I started feeling that spirit like in my body. And I started feeling the same sensations that I had felt the other night. And I was dancing this time. I wasn't speaking in tongues. It was just moving my body around to this music. And then she started to tell me, like, you know what? I don't think that spirit is bad. I think it's a shamanic spirit. You're doing a lot of Indian movements. And when you were under the possession the other day, I got the image of an Indian, and the tongues that you were speaking were in Indian. And so she was like, I don't think it's a bad spirit. She's like, she was like, I think you just have the gift of, which in Santeria, there's different gifts, right? And these are spiritual gifts. Like there's one where the spirits can mount you. She's like, I just think you're able to mount spirits. And she was like, we should do like a misa for you to figure out who the spirit is, what it is, what the purpose is. And so I'm like all excited, you know. She was like, yeah, I think it's a shamanic spirit. And so I'm thinking this is what it is. And she was like, we'll just see. We'll have you grow with that spirit and see what kind of healing powers you get from it. So we went to ayahuasca again because we're always at ayahuasca ceremonies. And at this ayahuasca ceremony, it didn't manifest at all, at all, at all. I just had an ayahuasca trip. It was like any of the other ayahuasca trips. And then that's when I started kind of going more into the Santeria. And I started hanging out with her more, started doing more mushrooms, started doing the peyote. I started doing bufo alvarius. When I went to the first peyote ceremony, it manifested there. And I was literally going around with my little rattle and healing people. People at the ceremonies would tell me, wow, like the music that you were playing really healed me. Because we had also, like, when we would go to these ceremonies, I would spray agua de Florida. And I had a bunch of oils and stuff that I would take. And she was like, oh man, when I would go to the ceremonies and we would serve there, a lot of people would be like, dude, you healed me and you really helped me out of this. And I would touch people, or this, when the spirit would possess me, I would play music. Usually I'm near the fire, I'm playing music, and the spirit would tell me where to go, who to heal, what to do. And I would go up to people and I would either touch them or start playing my rattle around them. And literally I would start seeing visions, and then I would start throwing up, which I would literally take whatever they had and I would get it in me and I would literally throw it up. And I served like this for some time, where I would go to the ceremonies, I would play my music, and at that point all I could worry about was me getting to know this spirit and working in union with the spirit. So I would go to all these ceremonies, I would serve, and yeah, me and the spirit, we got to know each other. It was an Indian spirit, it was a shamanic spirit. Then other people who had other gifts would be like, yeah, dude, I can see the Indian. You're literally there, and the Indian's right above you. It's this big Indian, and it's like, so everybody would tell you things like their visions, because everybody's trip is just, it's different. So I started getting more and more and more into that, and I kept wanting to get to know the spirit more. So I started buying a lot of Indian things, and I started going to more ceremonies. And every time I would go to a ceremony, that spirit would manifest. And then the elders started taking a notice of me, and they were like, hey, you know, you have some powers going on about you. And initiations started taking place in the spirit realm and in the physical realm. And I would just go serve. And then I remember, this is kind of what made things turn to the left a lot. So I remember going to, actually no, I started getting really close to that guy Aaron. I forgot to mention that. I started getting really close to this guy named Aaron, the guy from the mushroom ceremony. And we wanted to kind of start our own group and start running ayahuasca ceremonies. And I wanted to be a shaman for peyote. So I wanted to start running peyote ceremonies, but we had to kind of get some rights. We had to start getting land, and we had to start doing all of this other stuff. So we were kind of working on that. And then we were like, all right, well, why don't we start doing some mushroom ceremonies at your house? And then we can kind of start gathering some people up. We can start kind of seeing how we want to do things, what type of music we want to play, what type of environment we want to do. And then that way we can kind of start growing our own culture. And then so we started doing that. And I remember one of the mushroom ceremonies that we had in my backyard, and this is where it completely turned left. I remember one of this mushrooms ceremony in particular. I remember Aaron always telling me that he thought he was a reincarnation of Satan. And I always always told him, I was like, look, dude, I don't play around with that. I am a white light. I don't play around with the darkness. I'm here to put out light, and I'm here to be a healer to the world. That's what I thought my purpose was. And he would always tell me that, but I was like, dude, you're dumb. And I would just not pay attention to him, because I would always put my boundary down and be like, dude, I'm not going to do anything dumb. I'm just not on that side. So we end up having this mushroom ceremony out. We made our own brew, and we had a couple of people there that we wanted to start the culture with. We wanted to start a group with. So I remember taking the medicine, and that's what we called it. And I remember at first I was playing my music, and I was working with the group in cyclical form. And then all of a sudden I remember I couldn't move anymore. I was sitting in a chair, and I was literally paralyzed. I couldn't move, and I just kept seeing demonic cycles going in a circle form. And that ceremony was a disaster. I kept seeing those demonic things. The ceremony never finished. A bunch of people went home. Aaron manifested in a satanic way, where he was just claiming to be Satan. He was opening a bunch of portals up and doing a bunch of dark things. And I couldn't do anything. I was literally paralyzed in my chair. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. And the other people that were there, they brought me in. I was literally paralyzed. They put me on the couch. And Aaron was on my other couch. And this is after he finally calmed down from manifesting in a satanic way. I remember being in all white. I would always go to ceremonies in all white, because that means purity to me. And I remember I kept hearing his voice, and he was yelling things. He was laying down, and he was out of it on a trip, and he was just like having this battle of him and God in his mind. But he was just yelling out a lot of satanic things. And even though I couldn't move and I couldn't see anything, I could hear these things in my mind. And it felt like I was about to be sacrificed to the devil. And I remember I snapped out of the trip, and I was like, no. In my mind, I was saying, no, I refuse. As soon as I said, no, I refuse, I was able to get up again. And then I saw him laying on the couch, and he was like just in his boxers. And I was like, what? This is weird. So I was like, hey, wake up, like wake up. And then I remember him telling me, it's like, dude, like me and you are like Adam and Eve. We're just here. It's just me and you on the planet. It's only us. And I was like, no, dude, my friends left. You really screwed up this ceremony. Like, I don't know what my friends are gonna think about me tomorrow. This is crazy. I need to call my friends and see if they're okay. I don't know what happened to them. So I kept calling. Nobody was answering the phone. I called my mom, and she answered. So I was like, okay, whatever he's telling me, because at this point in time, my mind is very fragile. I had just gone through something really traumatic, and I didn't really know what the heck. I didn't really know the difference between the spirit realm and reality. So I knew that I wasn't the only person on the planet with him. I knew I wasn't Adam and Eve, because my mom had answered the phone, so I knew she was tangible. Then he kept trying to convince me. And then I was like, no, dude. I took him outside, and I showed him the cars passing by. And then he was like, oh, wow, we're not the only ones here. And then he kept trying to tell me, like, he wanted to have sex with me. And I remember him telling me, just go along with it. And I was like, no, dude, you need to get out of my house now. I refuse to have sex. the good thing is I refused to have sex with him because I never saw him in that way, so I was never attracted to him. But later on, knowing now what I know and having scriptural background with biblical background, sex is a covenant. When you have sex with someone, you're in agreement with them. You become one. You combine with them. So that creates a covenant. So now I know that the whole point was to have sex with me, was to sacrifice me to the devil, because that would have initiated a bond, because he thought he was the reincarnation of Satan. So I left really distressed, or I stayed really distressed after that, and I was just like, man, this is crazy. I got into isolation. I lost a couple of friends because of what happened at that ceremony, and honestly, I was like unsure of what was going on, and I was like, I'm gonna have another ceremony, but I'm gonna do it by myself. And I would always have ceremonies by myself anyways. In my backyard, I would have ceremonies. The demon that would possess me would come up and manifest, and I would speak in tongues, and there was other spirits there, so I thought those were guides and stuff. So I wasn't scared of being in the spirit realm. I was always very comfortable being in the spirit realm because I was just used to that. So I decided to do another mushroom ceremony, but before I did the ceremony, I remember praying, and I didn't really pray too much, but this time I really cried out to God, and I was like, God, if you're real, and if you're really out there, and if I'm not doing your work, show me in this ceremony, show me something. So I remember taking the shrooms, and it hit me, and I remember feeling very confused, asking myself, why did I take this? What am I doing here? I felt really confused, and I couldn't understand why. Like, I wanted to run away and snap out of the trip, but I was like, no, I'm gonna sit here for the 8 hours, and I'm gonna reflect on what the heck it is that I'm doing, and why am I doing this? Like, what is this leading me to? So I started reflecting there, and I remember even the music that I would play and sing to, I thought it was godly music, but they would never, in the music, it was always talking about God, but it would never say, it was never telling you who that God was. It would never say Jesus Christ. It was just saying Father. So I remember when I was trying to put my music on to see if I could just go into the trip and then see what would happen or come out of it. And I couldn't remember any of the lyrics or any of the songs. And I just thought that was crazy, because I was like, okay, there's something going on. There's something wrong, because how can I not remember the music? I'm not remembering anything. I'm asking myself, why am I here? Why am I doing this? And so I just felt really confused. And I remember leaving that trip, and after that, I've never done any, I never went back to any ceremonies again. After that, I really started reflecting on what I was doing, and I started getting the urge to want to read the Bible. And I read the Bible from the front cover to the back cover. And that's when I repented, and I found out the truth. God was trying to tell me, like, dude, this isn't what it is. And that's why I felt that way in the last ceremony, is he's like, this isn't me. This isn't me. And I had never wanted to read the Bible ever before in my life. I had no want to be a Christian. I always thought Christians were just like really culty type of people. That was what I had thought. So when I read the Bible from front to back, I went into a deep repentance, because in the Bible it says that you're not supposed to mess with any sorcery. You don't have access to the spirit realm. You're not supposed to mess with any witchcraft. And as I consumed the words from the Bible, if I ever thought that ayahuasca changed me in some way, nothing has changed me like the Bible has. The Bible has convicted me in ways that I can't, like, how can these words convict me so hard to change? And I've actually executed the change. These words have just changed my life, and that's how I know it's truth. When you know it's truth, you know it deep down in your heart, you know it deep down in your soul. And I remember when I started reading the Bible, and I thought the Bible was just a storybook of just a bunch of different stories, but the Bible is such a spiritual and beautiful book. Nothing has ever changed me the way that reading the Bible has. And once I started reading the Bible, I remember throwing myself on my knees and repenting to God, because I knew that I was wrong. Being so on the left showed me that when I started going to the right, that the power on this side superseded anything I had ever experienced in these ceremonies. Like, in order to initiate and step up and get more in these ceremonies, you have to do things, you have to sacrifice things, and you have to give a lot of yourself for that. Reading the Bible and just the words change you and convict you so much that it just supersedes. And Papi, get down, baby. And if you don't believe me, you can test the spirit for yourself. But once I started reading the Bible, I started understanding the spirit realm. The Bible is it's a book. It's a law book, actually. It's just like New Age believes in universal laws, the laws of gravity. The Bible is a book of laws. The reason why is because the people that wrote it are testimonies. What is testimony? It's a judicial word. It's something it's a type of word that you use in the legal system. Yeah, I'll be with you in a second. Finish your yogurt, please. It's a term that you use in the legal system. What does God call us as disciples? We're his witnesses. When you pray, you petition to God. You're making a petition. All of these words are used in the judicial system. The Bible is a law book. It teaches us how to be on this earth. What is it called? What does it stand for? Basic instructions before leaving earth. Okay, give me a quick second, okay? Hold on, guys. So, once I started reading the Bible, I repented. I gave my life to the Lord, and I started testing that spirit, and I started creating an intimate relationship with God, with the person that I shunned out my whole life, the person that I never thought that I could have a relationship with. And the way that he's changed me has superseded any changes I've ever made in ayahuasca. All of those changes that I thought I was making, they lasted maybe a couple of weeks, and then I would turn back to the regular person that I was. After reading the Bible has convicted me so hard that I'm forced through the conviction. That's another word, the conviction the Bible gives you. That's another legal word. Literally convicts you to change and to really see the God of the living host. which is the holies of the holies. Like, I really didn't think Jesus Christ was, I didn't believe it. And I tested the spirit, and Jesus Christ is the truth, guys. Read your Bibles. Take my testimony. Take my testimony into account. Don't play with ayahuasca. You're just opening up a spirit realm where you don't even know the spirits that you're messing with. Like, you feel things and you see things, but you don't know what you're really messing with. In the Bible, it says that Satan can pretend to be a spirit of light. Keep that in mind, guys. He can pretend to be a spirit of light, which is what you see in ayahuasca. You're taking the spirit of ayahuasca. You're not drinking the spirit of God, guys. Please take that into consideration.
I'm going to Fred's food.
He's getting Fred's food, baby. Okay, over here, baby.
Helen.
Thank you. Guys, take this into consideration before you guys ruin your lives and before you guys believe the lies. Satan is a liar. I've been possessed. I can tell you. I've been possessed. I can tell you what the truth is. So once I read the Bible, the funny thing is a lot of the elders that serve at these ceremonies, they think they're reincarnations of Jesus Christ or the Virgin Mary. But if they were to read the Bible, they would understand that they're not a reincarnation of Jesus Christ or the Virgin Mary. They would understand that what they're doing is messing with occultism and that they're getting tricked. A lot of people think that when they take ayahuasca and things. Puppy, I'll be with you in a second, please. I'll be with you in a second. So before you go out and do ayahuasca or do any of these crazy things, guys, try to understand what you guys are getting yourselves into. You're opening up a can of worms. You're opening up a bunch of doors to the spirit realm. The spirit realm and the devil work through legalities, guys. When you are not in God's commandments or following God's statutes, the devil has a legal right to come and mess with you, to come and put thoughts in you, to come and tempt you to do things, to get you on that side. Guys, we're fighting warfare. This is a battle of souls. This is a battle of souls. So Satan's going to want to do anything to get you on that side, to keep you in sin, which could be fornication. It could be playing around in occultism, taking all of these drugs to gain access to the spirit realm, which we shouldn't have access to. We're spirits. Right now we're in the flesh. Right now we have to live the flesh life. There's water right here. There's water right here. We need to live our life in the flesh and learn in the flesh. When we die, then we'll go back to the spirit. Puppy, please stop yelling. Okay? Stop yelling. There's water right here. Okay?
Pizza. Oink, oink, oink.
So guys, before you guys open up this can of worms, think about what you're doing, because the spirits that you guys are gonna mess with are a lot smarter and wiser than what you guys think. If they can keep us in sin, like fornication or like eating crappy or cursing, or I mean, even the music that's out and nowadays, what is it talking about? Sex, drinking, drugs. I mean, it's everywhere, guys. It's everywhere. Read the Bible and gain the truth. Stay away from ayahuasca. Stay away from peyote, because you guys are really just going to open up the doors, and the doors that you guys are opening up to, you don't even know what's on the other side. So take it from me and take my testimony as as a living proof that you guys don't need that, and that Jesus Christ is real, and that as long as you repent, anybody can have a relationship with him. If you guys have stayed to the end of this testimony, thank you. I know that I was all around the place. Sometimes it's hard saying your testimony because you remember all of the things, and you see all the visuals in your mind, and it sucks because you know that you can't take any of that back. But I'm glad I'm no longer doing that lifestyle because it was just hurting me. And I hope this testimony helps someone out there that is thinking about doing ayahuasca. It's not the truth. It's not the truth. Read your Bible and find out the truth, guys. I love all of you guys, and thank you for staying if you stayed till the end.